The impeachment of Donald Trump is a prominent topic in the media, but the question to answer is how well is the media delivering information to us about his impeachment? This is the question that we're going to attempt to address. However, first we're going to give you guys some facts that we know are correlated with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is currently the United States President and has made many bold decisions, some potentially threatening to his position in office as the 45th President. Bias towards or against Trump from reporters of media could falsely convey information or take away from the accuracy of the series of events being explained within the articles. What we do know for sure is that Donald Trump was officially impeached on December 18th, 2019, after articles referring to the abuse of power and obstruction of Congress were held against his actions. Some of the risky actions taken by Donald Trump leading up to his impeachment include, but are not limited to, revolving around alleged efforts of Trump attempting to coerce Ukraine and other foreign countries into providing damaging information about 2020 presidential candidate Joe Biden, as well as information about the Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. After his impeachment due to the articles pressed against him, his removal from office became the main topic of discussion, and serious consideration of his position in the office is occurring after he continues to make what some consider to be irrational decisions. Another action was taken by Donald Trump that angered many citizens and politicians. It also rallied others, and this was the ordered assassination of Iranian leader Soleimani. Trump also withdrew American troops from northern Syria, which were originally stationed there to help prevent terrorism and protect the country from inside threats. The removal of these troops from an ally left Syria extremely vulnerable and immediately resulted in Syria having to defend themselves against an invasion from Turkey, unleashing chaos. Trump essentially started a war, and United States troops were quickly redeployed there to help contain the issue before it got out of hand. These actions of Donald Trump had many questioning his power and brought up the idea of his removal from office. Although he most likely will not be removed from office due to the fact that Republicans dominate both houses, and it was agreed that witnesses will not be brought in to influence their decisions, this will still have a major impact on the legacy of Donald Trump. We know a lot of facts about the impeachment and proposed removal of Trump from office. However, we are going to address how understanding of the events that have occurred is influenced due to the political, historical, and cultural biases within the media which attempts to convey information about his impeachment and proposed removal from office. We are going to inform you all about each lens that we were able to identify and in which articles to prove that even the most frequently used media sources are biased.
As a group, we search for information online for what we consider to be highly accurate sources of information. Sources including ABC News, The Atlantic, Politico, CNN, and The Washington Post. The information provided by each news source is strikingly different, not only in the method that the information is delivered, but within the actual information itself. Despite each source being highly reputable in their own way, supposed facts often clash with one another, and the opinions of the writers have influence over how the consumer of the information is going to perceive the events. The first form of bias that we consistently see within the sources is the political bias. Without even having to list specific examples, it's easy to conclude that the author of each article has a certain political stance on President Trump. Because of this fact, any media covering the event tends to have at least some small amount of bias when delivering the information to media consumers. Even though these media outlets are all covering the same event, their unique interpretations allow us to see the biases that they hold and the power to sway the stance of the media consumers. The author within our source from The Atlantic clearly is on the extreme side of the issue, almost immediately using quotes by a late senator and former presidential Republican nominee to verbally attack Donald Trump. The author believed that, quote, the damage inflicted by President Trump's naivete, egotism, false equivalence, and sympathy for autocrats is difficult to calculate, and that the president has not risen to the mantle of the office, end quote. These words have been stated by John McCain and have been used within the article to quickly grab the attention of the reader and evoke strong feelings of hatred and anger within the reader. John McCain is certainly a man of power, and the article brings up the fact that he is a former Republican presidential candidate to show that even some people within Trump's own political party disagree with his actions. Despite that, lateral reading can be used to confirm the accuracy of the information provided, as the author's use of powerful emotions against Trump forces feelings of hatred onto the reader. The author also only mentions purely bad events that have occurred because of Trump and fails to mention any of his accomplishments or rewards. The political stance of the author has a major influence over the format of the article and the way the information is perceived by media consumers. This is just one example of how easy it is to detect bias within reputable media sources on the coverage of events correlated with President Trump. We were able to easily detect political bias within this article by The Atlantic, an article from ABC News, and an article from The Washington Post by finding strongly opinionated claims that were constantly reinstated throughout the articles, whether it be for or against Trump.
The second critical lens that we were able to apply consistently throughout the articles was the historical lens. Many of the articles bringing up past politics and impeachment trials when talking about Donald Trump. Other than Trump, only 2 other U.S. presidents have been impeached, those being Andrew Jackson and Bill Clinton. Richard Nixon was also technically impeached, however, he resigned before the process could commence. An article that we found within CNN brought up the viewpoint of American lawyers and academic opinions. Alan Dershowitz states that, quote, he went back and read all relevant or historical material as nonpartisan academics should always do, and he has concluded that framers did not intend to extend to vague and open-ended non-criminal accusations such as abuse of power and obstruction of Congress, end quote. Not only are these past documents having an influence within the people, it is also causing an influence within media consumers. As authors compare past events relating to impeachment and removals from office, they allow us to impact the reasoning on the event and therefore create bias within the articles. CNN including this quote mentioning historical documents written by a well-known and respected lawyer certainly has an impact on the reader in favor of Donald Trump. Even if someone is against the actions of Trump and believes that he has abused his power and obstructed Congress, this quote says that due to historical documents should not be enough to result in his impeachment. Many authors also bring up the fact that technically a president has never been removed from office and argue that actions of other presidents were much worse than Trump's. All of these facts from American history within the articles allow us to apply a historical critical lens to them, proving that they do in fact have some form of bias. History was used to reinforce the author's opinion in many of the reputable articles that we researched, including the article we mentioned from CNN, an article from ABC News, and articles within The Atlantic. Historical bias is a frequently occurring issue within articles on Donald Trump's impeachment and is the second most common bias we've found, just beyond political bias.
Third lens we found that could be consistently applied to the selected articles is the cultural critical lens. One major bit of information to consider is the fact that every single author that came up when we researched this event is involved in the modern American culture. Our country is arguably the most divided it has ever been in a while due to the extremities of opposing sides on a large-scale political debate, meaning that the authors of the articles will likely be culturally biased. Our current highly competitive political war between opposing sides results in a cultural influence over authors, which transfers to their articles, which then transfers to media consumers. It's a snowball effect of cultural bias. Also, due to modern culture, the goal of authors is less to inform the reader and more to gain attention of them in order to get more readers. Due to the fact of cultural influence, this results in the authors focusing on popularity rather than accuracy. The author is likely to intentionally draw out specific emotions towards the reader to gain both emotional attachment to the article and a bias for or against Donald Trump.
All of the lenses and biases that we were able to identify within each reputable media source helps to reinstate our thesis that political, historical, and cultural lenses can be applied to detect bias within media coverage of Trump's impeachment and proposed removal from office, preventing a full understanding of the events for media consumers. When searching articles to be informed on this constantly updated topic, it is crucial that one refers to multiple reliable sources of information in order to make sure that they all have the facts on both extreme sides of the topic. It is easy to be influenced having a love or hate for Donald Trump when referring to only one singular source of information, no matter how accurate the source supposedly is. For seemingly all media sources covering this political event have some sort of bias, sometimes subtle and other times more obvious and compelling. Donald Trump's presidency continues to be a prominent topic of discussion, and we encourage that you all continue to stay updated on this topic. However, make sure that multiple reliable sources are used to help confirm the accuracy of the others. This concludes our media presentation for the impeachment and proposed removal of Donald Trump from office. Thanks for listening.